What is up, Hawk fans? Hope all is well. Got some new information to discuss with you guys today. Iowa basketball has had a slew of decommitments and announcements that they will be entering the transfer portal. So I actually started to record this already, like on my, my setup, my more professional setup, rather than just using my iPhone. But my internet went out, so I have to, thankfully the video wasn't too long. I hadn't gotten too far into it. But suffice it to say, I believe that your thoughts, and I'm going to talk about Fran McCaffrey as well, and some of the coaching candidates that have been listed and kind of where things stand with that. And by the way, not a ton of information on this yet. Beth Gates is going to keep it close to the vest. She's not going to disclose a lot of information on this. So, and before we get into any of that, I want to ask you guys to consider smashing that subscribe button. Just tap it. Tap, tap, tap-a-roo. Let's get this channel to 2,000 subs. That'd be sweet. Without further ado, let's get into this. So, with regards to the Iowa men's basketball announcements, player departures, and decommitments, before I get into the names, I think your thoughts on this are going to fall in one of two main categories, okay? Either you are somebody who believes that the talent was terrible, Fran McCaffrey was terrible, the ship was terrible, the pirate ship was terrible, as Adam Carolla would say, or, and it all needed to go, good riddance, see you later, sayonara, hasta luego. Or you're somebody who thought that Iowa had some decent talent. It wasn't completely broken, but yes, it was probably best for Iowa to move off of Fran McCaffrey given the lack of attendance numbers from fans, the lack of excitement, the lack of monetary endorsement of the program as far as NIL and things of that nature. Those would be the two main camps. So I say that to say that this information that I'm about to give you guys, in the end, the names that I drop, if you are in the former category, no, would it be the latter or the former? The first one I said, then this is not really big news. These individuals deciding to transfer is not really a big deal, and you're just here merely to hear this information. I would say I am more in the second group personally. Right, it's former. I fall in the latter category, okay? I don't think that it was all broken. I don't even think Fran McCaffrey is a bad coach. He has a proven track record of success. Now, it may not be as much success as you would like, but it's still success. I mean, the guy won a Big Ten tournament title, which few Iowa coaches have done just 3 years ago. Okay, he's gotten guys to the NBA who were unheralded recruits, to varying degrees. My biggest thing with Fran McCaffrey is I would always see the success that his offense had. And I would always say to myself, man, if only they could just defend a little bit better. Just a little bit better. This team would be a top, consistent top 25, top 30 team. Because they already have consistently one of the best offenses in the entire country. But again, in the end, it's a culture thing. And if you do not have a culture of viewing defense as an important thing, then you're not gonna do it average to well consistently. You're just not, because you don't have the buy-in from the top down. And I totally acknowledge that is a problem. That was a big issue for Fran McCaffrey. But it was really easy, especially because previous Fran McCaffrey teams, especially if you go back to his first couple of years, not a lot of Iowa fans know this, but the Mike Gesell days, I would say it's really just the last 5 years thing. The Mike Gesell, Anthony Clemens, Jared Utoff, Aaron White, hell, even Tyler Cook and Joe Wieskamp. Usually they were a top 85 defensive efficiency team. Not great, but sufficient. I think in the first couple of years of being an NCAA tournament, Roy Devin Marble Jr., his first 5 years, the Adam Woodbury, I think that Iowa had a top 60 defensive efficiency team. It seems to me that it really was with the departures of Kirk Spurrow and, what was his name? Andrew Francis, that kind of spurned Iowa to stop caring fundamentally so much about defense. But even 3 years ago, if you go back, they were a top 85 defensive efficiency team with Chris Murray. So, I digress, okay? And that's why I always say this was not as clear-cut as some people like to make it. And I think in the end, a lot of people who have those opinions, not saying everybody, but a lot of people who have those opinions really just didn't like Fran McCaffrey. Because I think if you look at it from a balanced, non-emotional perspective, I don't think that you would see it that way. But that's just me. But I appreciate all your guys' opinion on the matter. And I've seen people like on Facebook who say, and they're totally wrong about this too. There's teams who say, what teams are good at offense and defense? It's like Duke, all the top 25 teams, Iowa State, they're all solid top 30 defensive efficiency and offensive efficiency teams, because usually the athleticism and the talent lends itself to both. And defense, to me, from what I know as an athlete, as somebody who's been involved in sports for a long time, defense, unlike offense, you can get around with not having the most athletic talent in the world by merely a desire, a culture, and a willingness to do more and make it happen. So anyways, with that said, wherever you fall on the gambit, I've already talked about Owen Freeman deciding to transfer. He has a grade of 96 by On3. So if you go from his high school to what he's ranked from On3, he's tremendously elevated himself. Owen Freeman was a consistent high to mid 3-star. I think maybe 1 or 2 recruiting services had him as a borderline 4-star, like with an 80 grade. So he's definitely elevated his stock, as I knew would be the case. To me, he's a big name that is gone. But, and I almost forgot about this, I read on X that, and I don't know how true this is, but I read on X that Owen Freeman, regardless of the decision of Fran McCaffrey, was gone. Which is why he shut it down to get his finger better so he could better prepare for the following season fully with whatever team he chose to go to. And the team is Kansas. That is the team that is floating a name around. Illinois has written articles that, of course, they would be interested in him. I think Owen Freeman, if he wanted to, could probably go to some bigger names than even Illinois. I think he probably could get some feedback from the Blue Bloods, the Kansas, the Dukes, the Tennessees, the Auburns that are current Blue Bloods in today's basketball landscape. So he's a big name that I was losing. I don't think we will ever know how true that information was. But I only say that to say that for me now, it's kind of hard to judge whether we had any hopes in retaining Owen Freeman, regardless of the Fran McCaffrey situation. But again, at the end of the day, one player should not, the decision of one player should not decide or be the main parameter for whether this was the right coaching decision or not, because it's much bigger than that. There's way more factors than just the decision of Owen Freeman, which I'm going to circle back to momentarily. But let me get to some other players. Price Sandfort has decided to hit the transfer portal. Iowa's probably most improved player. I constantly said that he was going to slide into the starting role to replace his brother next year. And I actually liked his game a little bit better than Peyton's. That's a big loss. Again, physically, athletically, not the most gifted, but somebody like Price is a really valuable piece to have, either for like a really talented team as a sixth man, or as like a third or fourth option on a, good to maybe approaching elite team, which is kind of what I hope that he would be for Iowa. Brock Harding has decided to put his name in the transfer portal, which, Iowa is completely depleted at the point guard position. I'm going to rank these guys as far as like how I view them to be biggest lost all the way down. And then, of course, Iowa has lost out on the commitment of four-star small forward Joshua Lewis, who is a perennial top 75 recruit and was a big recruiting win for Fran McCaffrey. At the end of the day, guys, this is going to be a massive hire for Beth Gates. As I continuously say, I know a lot of you guys want to pretend like this was a cut and dry decision. I completely and utterly disagree with that. I'm not saying it was the wrong decision. I have always said that I was open to the idea of Fran McCaffrey leaving because he was definitely not perfect. And I have consistently been the only channel. That's why it kind of bugs me when I see people coming at me in a sort of way in the comment section, because it's like, are there any other channels that are anywhere near what you're saying? I'm the only one that's even close to what you're saying here. Like, I'm the only one that is willing to give any sort of pushback for when it comes to Iowa sports. Every other channel just wants to maintain their relationship, but I digress. So this is going to be a massive decision for Beth Gates, because it was not clear cut and dry. Fran McCaffrey had a lot of success, and Beth Gates has to hit a home run here. This is going to be quite possibly the coaching decision that defines or begins to shape her time at Iowa. Because if you look at all the other hires that she's made, one was as interim athletic director, the football decision. And I think she did a decent job with that as an interim, and I'm I was okay with the Tim Lester hire. I'm still okay with it. I kind of like the new attitude that the Iowa football program is appearing to have while maintaining Kirk Ferentz as head coach. Lisa Bluter. That was an easy decision for her. I just read an article on this. I mean, that it was decided 20 minutes after she retired. Like, it was an easy decision. That the new coach had been with Iowa forever as an assistant coach. Lisa Bluter, sang her praises. It was an easy decision. well, maybe not easy, but, she had Iowa connections. Jan Jensen's, respected in women's basketball. It seemed a lot easier of a decision than this. This is the first full coaching search with all attention where a coach was fired and there's not an easy replacement on the coaching staff where there's going to be coaches that are interviewed for this job, and there's a national search. By the way, guys, for what it's worth, Matt Gatens, I would absolutely be open to him. I think there are obviously better names out there than Matt Gatens, but I do believe that Matt Gatens is a guy that is very familiar with the state of Iowa, very familiar with the sport of basketball, and gained a lot of great experience on the coaching staff of Fran McCaffery. Now, some of you guys are going to think that it was bad coaching experience if you are, that big of a Fran McCaffery detractor. But I'm big on guys that have the background, have they played at a super high level. They have a connection to the University of Iowa, like a Liddell Betts, Abdul Hodge. I like those types of hires. But at the end of the day, this is a head coaching position. Matt Gatens needs to leave Iowa and get some head coaching experience elsewhere. So let me rank, because I want to keep this video under 25 minutes. Let me rank the guys. I would say, Owen Freeman probably is the biggest loss. I would go with Price Sandfort, number 2. And I'd probably go with Joshua Lewis, number 3. Just because he was such a highly recruited kid coming out of high school. Top 75 player out of the state of Florida, 6'8", 6'7". And that's not me saying anything about Brock Harding. Brock Harding is going to be able to find another Power 4 school that is willing to give him the opportunity to start next year. Okay? You better believe that. Okay? I mean, his numbers, maybe not, he's not quite what we saw from Tony Perkins' junior year, but especially towards the end of the year, he has had solid numbers for a sophomore in college. Okay, he's put together solid numbers. So this is, and I've always said I really, really enjoy Brock Harding's game, and it's too bad for me that I'm not going to be able to see it culminate at the University of Iowa. So, but that's how I would rank it. You could probably flip-flop Joshua Lewis and Brock Harding depending on how you look at it. All right, lastly, the coaching candidates, the two biggest names with the state of Iowa connection, who are hot names right now. Obviously, Darren DeVries, whose West Virginia team did not make the NCAA tournament, but in his first year, it was a solid season. And one of their best players got injured, so he's without one of their best players, a.k.a. his son. And then the other name, of course, but they still had a better season than Iowa, I would say. They're ranked a little bit higher. And the second name, of course, is Drake's Ben McCollum, who is his team made the NCAA tournament. So I'm just looking. Yeah, but Darian DeVries is absolutely the name that has been put out there the most. It's going to cost a lot of money. Let's read this about Chad. Let's read this from Chad Leistikow. When Beth Gates dismissed men's basketball coach Fran McCaffery on Friday, barely more than 12 months after Iowa lost in the Big Ten tournament. It felt like the Hawkeyes athletics director must have had this decision made for a while. And I will say I agree with that. And personally, I have thought about whether it was the right decision if she did have her decision made up for a couple of weeks now, whether it really was the right decision to wait until the end of the season for Fran McCaffrey to be gone. Because in coaching searches, yes, you want to be as nice to the current coach as possible, but time is the name of the game. You have to get your name out there fast and find your coach fast before everybody else does. So, I'm not against what they did, because I can understand he's been at Iowa for 15 years. It's not like it was a god-awful season. Wasn't the best season, obviously, but it wasn't god-awful. But still, I think at the end, you would have to ask yourself, would it provide us with that much of an advantage, holding on to recruits, keeping recruits, or keeping part of the roster, if that was something that's important, which I'll circle back to, if we got rid of them 2 weeks before the season ended. Who knows? But, and I said that on Facebook, I think it is possible that Fran McCaffrey already knew this, and the players already knew this, because if you look at their reactions after the Illinois loss, it appeared to me, and their answers and their candor and their honesty, it appeared to me that it was much more than just a hard-fought loss to Illinois in the Big Ten tournament. And if the decision had been made for a while, she would have had time to do the requisite amount of back-channel work exactly to have 2 or 3 candidates that she felt good could be attainable in short order. No question, West Virginia coach Darian DeVries would have been on that short list. And why wouldn't he be? For almost every reason, deep Iowa roots, successful coach who would get fans excited, Iowa being one of his 2 dream jobs, a star son who could immediately transfer, DeVries, 49, checks every box as a great fit for the Hawkeyes. Dang, it's hailing where I live. So when West Virginia stunningly got left out of the NCAA tournament on Sunday night, that meant Gates probably needed to improvise and get on a faster track in hiring McCaffrey's successor. If Iowa is going to convince DeVries to come to Iowa City after 1 year at West Virginia, Monday would have been the time for Gates to make a move. Even if she had Drake's Ben McCollum or someone else as a co-favorite with DeVries, in her mind, West Virginia's tourney snub opened an unexpected door that she should charge through. Think about this from DeVries' perspective, too. If indeed he has interest in hearing what Iowa has to offer, he would want to wrap this up sooner rather than later. He can't stay silent forever with so much speculation swirling about his future, which is true. Because if he's going to stay at West Virginia, you don't want to lose out on the recruits that you have at West Virginia. So you have to say something. It was notable that as of Monday afternoon, he had not made any public statements about his future, though he had made 2 statements about West Virginia getting left out of the big dance despite 6 Quad 1 wins. I definitely agree with that. That's a lot of Quad 1 victories to not make the NCAA tournament. This is when Gates, assuming she thinks DeVries would be a terrific next men's basketball coach at Iowa, needs to come to the bargaining table with her best offer, including assurances on NIL money for player acquisition. And if DeVries declines her best offer, so be it. She needs to know where things stand there, just like DeVries and his wife and 2 kids do too. I'm assured by a high-level source that Iowa is more than willing to do what it takes financially to make the right hire for the program. In other words, the $4.66 million buyout that Iowa would need to pay West Virginia to pluck DeVries would not be a roadblock. If that's who Gates truly wants, despite what ESPN tried to report Saturday, which I agree. For all intents and purposes, I have always said, especially at the Power 4 level, if you're going to get rid of a coach, you need, as Clay Travis would say, you need to do the dump truck method where you back up a boatload of cash and you get the name that you want. It doesn't always work out. And yes, you might be burnt a lot of money. But when it does work out, it makes it all worth it. Because the money and the revenue that you earn from a successful hiring in these big major sports makes it worth it. This is a tweet from Chad, good old Chad. Can report with great confidence that this quote from Pete Thamel on ESPN is inaccurate. Iowa's not in great financial shape, and they do not have a strong appetite to pay a big buyout to acquire a coach. Iowa is prepared to do what is necessary to make the right hire, I'm told. Who's Pete Thamel? Let's see who Pete Thamel is. Oh my gosh. College football senior writer. Come on, bruh. This couldn't be working out better timing-wise for Iowa. The NCAA selection committee has provided a gift. Let's say, for argument's sake, DeVries and McCollum are co-number one choices in Gates' mind, with Drake not playing until 6:35 p.m. Thursday against Missouri in the NCAA tournament. She has 3 days to try to lock up DeVries, and if it doesn't work out for whatever reason, she can still go hard after McCollum, potentially as early as Friday morning if the Bulldogs make a first-round NCAA exit. The risk in letting the DeVries opportunity pass is that McCollum, already linked to the open Indiana job too, could command even more of a market if Drake goes on an NCAA tournament run, which frankly wouldn't be a huge surprise. And then there becomes exponentially more risk that Gates gets left without either guy. And unless she's got a stunner up her sleeve, coming up empty on DeVries and McCollum would be a letdown for the Hawkeyes fan base. Absolutely. Especially with the in-state connections, I could not agree with that more. As we saw Monday, this video is a little bit longer than I expected. Iowa basketball players are entering the NCAA transfer portal by the hour. Brock Harding and Bryce Sandfort, followed by Owen Freeman. It's likely more are entering soon, including perhaps Josh Dix. But as Sandfort said, he will be monitoring the Iowa program to see what coach comes aboard. He played with DeVries' son, Tucker, at Hawkeyes High School. And by the way, guys, it is worth mentioning, I don't think that all these names that have entered the transfer portal all of them would not be willing to hear what Iowa's new head coach has to offer and who that head coach is. I think Owen Freeman is probably gone, but that's just like my gut feeling about it. But I think all the other names would be open to it. Definitely Bryce Sandfort. And for what it's worth, I even think that the recruit, because it's so late in the game in recruiting, I think Joshua would be open to it too. Josh Lewis. This is a fluid situation that has a chance to be resolved soon. Thus, for so many reasons, the smartest place for Gates is to take a home run swing at DeVries right now. Well said. Rare W for Chad Leistico. He's definitely done a lot better job, I would say, in recent years. So that's pretty much it, guys. I think Iowa has a chance if they want to. But the thing is, whoever the new Iowa coach is, especially if they're coming from another program, especially if it's a Power 4 program, especially if it's DeVries, they will likely be bringing a handful of players, several players, including the son that they already have. Even if it's McCollum, I guarantee, at least for the first year, there will be a few players, especially a Drake, where his sales pitch is, listen, it's still the state of Iowa. It's the University of Iowa. You're already in the state of Iowa. Come play in the Big Ten. Let's go and have a great first year, and you can elevate your stock as a potential professional player. So, but they will likely bring multiple players from wherever they come from. Okay. This is from Hawk Central. I was not planning on doing this, but I am. Craig Meyer from USA Today. Finally, somebody listed a non-paid article that we can see this. Coaching candidates, Ben McCollum. Iowa's best potential hire just might be someone who's already in the state. McCollum has had a stellar first year at Drake. Man, doesn't it seem like Indiana has had 6 coaches in the last whatever? Located about 150 miles west in Des Moines, the Bulldogs are 30-3 and won both the Missouri Valley regular season and tournament champions. The biggest obstacle for the Hawkeyes with McCollum might be a school in their own conference, as he's reportedly one of the front runners for an open Indiana job. Darian DeVries. The biggest question for DeVries could be whether he's willing to leave West Virginia after just 12 months and whether Iowa would be willing to pay a nearly $5 million buyout. If both things can be worked out, though, Iowa would not only get DeVries, but potentially his son Tucker, a two-time Missouri Valley Player of the Year, who has a year of eligibility remaining should he choose to exercise it. Chris Jans, Mississippi State, another Iowa native. Dang. Jans has extensive basketball ties to the state, having played at Loras College in Dubuque and coached at Kirkwood Community College. In 8 seasons as a D1 head coach, he's 206-83 with 3 NCAA tournament appearances in 5 seasons at New Mexico State. Not bad. And soon to be 3 trips to the big dance in 3 seasons at Mississippi State. Jans is making $4.2 million this season with the Bulldogs, with whom he signed through 2027-28. Would he be willing to leave what appears to be a good situation? That's not a bad name, no. Jared Calhoun, Utah State, who Iowa lost to this year. Calhoun is in his first season at Utah State, but has spent much of his career in the Midwest and Appalachia. Former assistant coach for Bob Huggins at West Virginia, the Ohio native went 124-38 in 5 seasons at D2 Fairmount State before going 118-106 in 7 seasons at Youngstown State. Historically difficult place to win. This season, he has Utah State at 26-6 and safely in the NCAA tournament field, and they did end up making the NCAA tournament. Nico Medved, Colorado State. Medved has been a steady winner throughout his 12-year Division I head coach career. He went 42-28 in his final 2 seasons at Furman, which went 7-24 the season before his hiring, before spending a year at Drake where he led the Bulldogs to a 10-win improvement in his lone season there. He's 140-84 in 6 seasons at Colorado State, including NCAA tournament appearances in 2 of the past 3 seasons, with potentially a 3rd bid on the way. Medved has shown an impressive ability to develop and, more importantly, in the age of the transfer portal, retain players. One snag for Iowa could be that Medved would almost certainly be a candidate for the vacancy at his alma mater, Minnesota. But don't they have a brand new coach too? Steve Forbes, Wake Forest. Forbes, like others on this list, is an Iowa native with coaching experience in the state. In the case of at Southwestern Community College in Creston, he's 222 and 108 across 10 seasons at East Tennessee State. And Wake Forest included a 92-65 mark with the Demon Deacons. He has improved what has arguably been the ACC's worst program at the time of his hiring, going 86-49 over the past 4 seasons at Wake Forest, but is yet to make an NCAA tournament during this time, which at least raised questions about his job security after his 5th season. All right, I'm not going to read the rest. Brian Wardle, Bradley's a name. Alan Huss, High Point, who made the NCAA tournament. There's a lot of good names, guys, and that's what I want to leave you guys with. Yes, if Iowa did not land McCollum or DeVries, it would suck. But there's a lot of good names out there, okay? There's a lot of good names. In the end, you're looking for somebody who can fit multiple and check multiple boxes. For me, I don't need a guy that is necessarily an Iowa native. You know, has Iowa State coaches always been an Iowa native? I don't believe so. Sometimes, maybe. But it doesn't always have to be the case. I am looking for a guy that will bring excitement into Iowa basketball, which obviously, if Iowa doesn't land the first 2 guys listed, it might be hard to do that. But do they have... I'm looking for a young up-and-comer that can grow with the University of Iowa. That has its own setbacks, though. Because if you land a young coach that has success, he might be looking for other opportunities after the success. See, Fran McCaffrey was like middle-aged, so he could take Iowa, after 10 years into his 60s and 70s. Iowa State basketball. So I'm looking for a guy that has connections in some major recruiting markets and has a proven track record of being able to recruit. Fran McCaffrey, Iowa did kind of take a chance on him as far as he had a lot of mid-major success, but he didn't have any Power 4 success, so it was kind of hard to validate how well of a recruiter he was. But he obviously had some big first wins with Mike Gesell, Adam Woodbury. So if I had to grade Fran McCaffrey and his ability to recruit at Iowa, it was kind of a mixed bag. It's hard to say because NIL and there's some, it wasn't always the same landscape. But Iowa was in on some big names. Tyler Ulis. I mean, they were in the finals for names that you would not expect. I mean, there were multiple years there, and this is why Iowa fans kind of were starting to get apathetic towards Iowa, where they were big, they were a top 3 candidate, but then Michigan State would land them. Hauser, or, Kentucky would land them, or, some other blue blood would land them. But Fran McCaffrey, obviously, even if he didn't win, he had the ability to show recruits that he knew the game of basketball. And that's, I'm looking for a guy with connections and is a guy that these recruits are like, this guy knows the game of basketball. I'm interested in playing for him. So, yes, I do think that the Iowa connection, TJ Otzelberger is from Wisconsin. I do think a Midwest connection would help, would be beneficial. I just don't think it's the end-all be-all because there's a lot of talent out there. Even Iowa didn't always land guys from the Midwest. I mean, the Murray twins, yes, they went to Iowa, but they went to prep school in Florida. I would say a majority of recruits were from the Midwest, but not always. Fran McCaffrey, basketball recruiting is extremely global now. It's very interconnected. It's not as regional as it once was. All right, guys, this video is getting too long here. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, like, comment, share. Maybe I should have broken this up into a few videos rather than this almost 40-minute video. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow and facts your feelings because your feelings just don't matter. Love you, Hawk fans. See you guys next time. Peace. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.